Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dustin L. Mortimer.
Good evening and happy Midsummer's Eve, everyone. After today, things will start moving in a wintry direction again, thank fuck. Excuse me, I have to go discipline the dog because he will not, for some fucking reason, stay out of the cat box.
And I'm your host last time, Lone Wannabe, the Brains from Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight? uh...
Okay, I'm back.
All right. Damn, I had something I was gonna read some stuff. All right, give me 1 sec while I figure out where we were last time, because we're gonna try and finish the news article.
Yep.
Man, want to just sing, Don?
Fuck. Didn't have any songs.
I gotta ask. Okay, now I gotta ask, because you would have been old enough to remember this song when it was popular. Black Parade.
One, that's a song. Two, fuck no.
What?
I've never heard that song before in my life, and I hope to never hear it. Because Pride Month is insufferable, and anything related to Pride Month tends
I'm sorry. Do you legitimately you don't know what Black Parade is? Welcome to the Black Parade.
I thought you said Pride Parade, and I was like, what in the actual fuck is that?
Why the fuck would? For the record, this is your month, motherfucker. And
no, it really isn't.
Aren't you gay?
Yes, but I am not LGBT, because fuck that noise. The activism and the effeminate tripe is different from actually, just being a person who happens to have that sexuality. And in my ideal world, we would gas the twinks. Not because they're gay, but because they're effeminate and insufferable. And I don't know Black Parade well enough to sing it. Anyway, so there.
Really?
Really?
It would have been at its peak when you would have been old enough to remember.
Okay, when did it actually come out? First of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, please remember that I never had control over the radio as a child. And my fucking rural-ass middle of nowhere Pennsylvania area defaulted to country all the fucking time because stupid.
2006. 2006.
Okay, so I would have... Okay, trying to figure out how old
11.
I would have been. Yeah. And
I'm
again,
terrible, motherfucker, I am terrible at math, and yet I was able to figure that out faster.
and again, like I said, I didn't ever have radio privileges as a child, and my podunk middle of nowhere area always defaulted to country music.
It's weird. It's East Coast. Never mind. I just remember. Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason why there's a euphemism for the area around where I'm from, which is Pennsyltucky, because despite being a northern state, we act like hicks a lot around here. Wish we didn't, because it's goddamn insufferable. The only three things my the people in my area do that is like noteworthy is hunting, farming, and drinking. And as someone who doesn't particularly fancy doing any of those three things, it's insufferable.
All right. So I think I found it. Obviously, I think we're just gonna have to backtrack a little bit just so we have full context and also just somewhere to start.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not gonna say it's weird that you don't know Black Parade because that thing really would have popped off. Granted, that probably would have been more for my generation. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, because like we just figured out, I was 11 in 2006.
Well, no, actually, that would have been for your generation because my generation would have been fucking. I would have been 6 or well, no, about 6 going on 7 in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, you're old.
I'm aware. Thank you. I will be 30 in a little bit more than a month, and that is foreboding, especially because I'm still a goddamn virgin, and that will never cease to annoy me until it is no longer the case.
Well, one thing, don't try to force it because that'll never happen.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
And I recently came to the uncomfortable realization that even if I wanted to use magic to expedite matters there are no entities associated with love that I would get along with. And that pisses me off even further. When not even magic is an option, it pisses me off.
All right. Okay. So I'm just gonna restart. I think we were in the middle of this, but I stopped it obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start. The content is now controversial in a way it didn't used to be.
It was always controversial. You guys just kept ignoring and invalidating the controversy for 12 fucking years. Like this shit goes back at least as far as Gamergate, which started like middle of 2013 through about 2015. That means between 10 to 12 years, you guys have been doing everything you can to ignore, or more aptly, morally and politically invalidate anyone who has a problem with this shit. Even if we happen to be gay. Like, even if it's me, or the Gays Against Groomers group, or the LGB Alliance, you guys will ignore anyone who's gay that doesn't like the quote-unquote LGBT activism and the pride shit. Because you confuse the activist class with all the people who hold that identity. And as I previously stated, my position is we should gas the twinks. Not because they're gay, but because they are insufferable. Anyway, moving on.
All right. In a follow-up Q&A session convened to address staff concerns, the CEO, accompanied by the Chief People and Culture Officer, made clear that the decision to roll back Pride content was related to the current political climate and that the choice to discontinue Pride Month events was to avoid backlash.
Well, it sucks to be you then, because I'm guessing that the LGBT activists are going to going to read you the Riot Act and slander you in articles like this one. And the people who don't like Pride Month because it's an insufferable bit of excess are probably not going to notice, because unlike the people who obsess over Pride, we don't hyperfixate on minor details like this. So you probably are at this point screwed no matter what you do, because had you stayed true to Pride, it would have pissed off everyone who doesn't like Pride. And if you tried to behave in anything resembling a neutral way, they're just going to call you right-wing simps or something. So you're basically screwed no matter what you do. Frankly, it was a stupid idea to cave to this bullshit in the first place. That was the opening of Pandora's box moment. You just are now realizing that opening that box was a stupid idea to begin with. Moving on.
The Q&A opens with John Bellamy stating Friday's communication very clearly caused distress. I want to be clear. Decision for this is with me. I own it. I'm fully responsible for it. I published Friday's announcement with speed in mind, and this weekend's messages and questions made that clear. You continue to understand that RuneScape is precious because it is a safe space. It is an escape from reality, and the reality that we find ourselves in is changing. It is getting stranger, more troubling, less moral. I would agree. Games and studios are being canceled because of content that was perceived to be woke representative. The pendulum is swinging back in a way we didn't expect.
Even though we've been telling you for 10 to 12 years that this wasn't going to be inevitable, even though you were getting people from the left, right, and the center who were all telling you that social justice, as it was referred to back then, was a moralistically authoritarian ideology, and that censorious moralistic bullshit was counterproductive at best and actively harmful at worst. And it took 10 to 12 fucking years for us to even get this far, to even get equal, say in the matter, let alone actually push back against it in any meaningful way. Frankly, you should have been neutral the whole time, because a corporation's job should not be to be a moral entity. It should be to produce a product or service that people want to buy and are willing to pay money for, and then provide that service for them. Would also help if you didn't tell your audience to go fuck themselves every 5 minutes, but that's, neither here nor there. Moving on.
Bellamy said that given that climate, the safe havens within RuneScape and OSRS are more needed than ever before, and therefore he has to ensure the business is protected against those that would wish us harm. It's the difficult balance that Friday's decision was trying to find. The way that I communicated it missed the mark.
Okay, here's a question. If the actual audience of RuneScape want there to be Pride events in-game, which I would argue makes no sense because it's a medieval it's a sword and sorcery medieval setting, but that's neither here nor there. If the audience, the actual player base of RuneScape, wanted to make Pride events in-game be a thing, could they not have done it themselves? There's quite a lot of customizability in RuneScape. Why don't the people who want there to be Pride events in RuneScape just create Pride events in RuneScape? Why do they need to be co-signed by the corporation? Oh, because it's more about legitimacy, quote unquote, or validity, quote unquote, than it is about actually enjoying the setting or enjoying the game you're supposed to be playing. This is why when people put their morality or politics ahead of everything else in their lives, they become inseparable wankers. It was equally true with the TradCon evangelical family values brigade of yesteryear as it is with the social justice set. If you prioritize your politics and your morality so much that you cannot enjoy other things or let yourself enjoy other things, and you have to bring that morality into whatever else you're doing, then you are an insufferable brat. And frankly, a better world exists when no one listens to you. When no one takes the censor seriously, when no one caves to the pitchfork and torch wielding mob, or social media mob, as the case may be. Moving on.
Sorry, I am tired. Work has kicked my ass the last week. Fucking summer. Oh my god, you're converting me, you son of a bitch.
I will reserve the I told you so, but rest assured
to be
it is
fair-
there for later.
To be fair, I live in the Midwest. It's fucking terrible in the Midwest.
To be fair, the Midwest gets schizophrenic weather no matter what season
Dude,
it is.
we don't have spring. We don't have spring. We have fucking ice cold, bone chilling winter, and fucking goddamn the sun is trying to kill us. Oven
Yep.
summers.
I went to college. I went to college in Ohio. I know how it is. Your guys' weather has schizophrenia at any given moment, regardless of what season it is. But in any case, moving on.
Yeah, sorry. It confirmed that the OSRS Pride Mini Quest is being discontinued for 2025, and the Tales of Pride event will return to RuneScape, but without new developed content. The content is now controversial in a way it didn't used to be, and that controversy now brings more risks than it did previously, risks that I'm personally responsible to protect against.
It was always controversial, or rather, it's been controversial for at least the last 10 to 12 years. And we told you, and 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 you didn't listen. And now, as you put it, the pendulum has swung the other direction, and now people have stopped being nice, because we shouldn't have to tell you this is controversial for 12 fucking years for you to actually register that it is controversial. Moving on.
However, community organized in-game Pride March will be permitted to continue. Okay.
Yeah, see that aspect I don't have a problem with. If a given group of players want to throw a simulacrum of a pride parade in setting, I don't care. I do care if the corporation that runs the game picks a side in that particular discussion. Which, by the way, I would have the same issue if, for some reason, the mods of the game banned anyone trying to organize their own Pride event in game. My solution would be let the players decide what they want to do with the setting, and then let them do it. The corporation shouldn't be taking a moral stance in one direction or the other. The corporation's job should be to make a service or product that people find worth spending money on, and then encouraging those fans to be as happy as they possibly can be in an effort to please the customer. That's the thing. Instead of treating your corporation like some kind of moral entity, you should be trying to make your audience happy, and a happy audience would then be more willing to spend money on your shit, and then everyone goes home happy. What you shouldn't do is take arbitrary moral stances in either direction. When you take arbitrary moral stances in either direction and tell your audience to piss off when they disagree with them, that is when you are failing the one function that a corporation should have, which should be to please the customer and provide a product or service that the customer wants to spend money on and will willingly spend money on. Moving on.
Alright. We are all aware of the difficult political climate in gaming and the wider world.
And
So-
yet you've been ignoring us for like 10 to 12 years. This is the problem. If you're aware of it, then either adjust your behavior, which you still haven't actually done, or come out on the opposite side, which you have frequently done, and wonder why you keep losing people's respect as a result thereof. Because this is the thing. The social justice types need to understand that they are the new Puritans. Like in all seriousness, since 2013 at the earliest until just a couple months ago, they have been the morally sacrosanct, censorious ones. And rather than acknowledge that they have a position of power for which they need to be held responsible, they pretend they haven't made any inroads whatsoever and keep trying to play the victim, even if they're at the highest level of the ivory tower. And this level of annoying, moralistic, authoritarian hypocrisy pisses enough people off that people will oppose you, and only just now have you realized, oh wait, shit, all those people we told the fuck off weren't banished from reality entirely. So we still have to deal with them. You could have been reasonable about this back in like 2013. You could have stopped saying that anyone who disagrees with you is a fascist and a Nazi and a white supremacist and every other evil thing that you can think to call us, and acknowledge that people who you disagree with are just as valid as you. Instead, you chose to go the everyone we don't like is a Nazi route, and now we live in a world where even if you were right about them being Nazis, which you're not, they would still be more preferable than you. And here we are. Moving on.
Put to management dated the 15th of May, and written by staff DEI groups within JAGX. Whatever. Begins, Dear JAGX executive team, we are writing to ask you to restart development on the new Pride content for 2025, and to make a commitment that Pride will continue to be an annual seasonal event in both Old School and RuneScape.
No, piss off. If you want to organize it yourselves, you are welcome to. But the corporation should not be acting as a moral entity in either direction and should be mostly concerned with providing the best possible product for its customer base. And anything else needs to piss off. Also, speaking of, there shouldn't even be a DEI department in the fucking corporation that runs RuneScape. Just like there shouldn't be a Hays Code department either. Because, for those who don't know what, or who don't understand what I'm saying here, back in the old days, there were traditionalist, evangelical family values moral censors, like J. Thomas Bowdler, like the Comics Code Authority a la Frederick Wortham, like the Hays Code. And those systems were also complete and utter morally censorious bullshit. But because it's been, 50 to 70 years since then, the social justice left became the new, moralistically authoritarian, censorious ones. And for their moral order, things like ESG, DEI, and Bridge are to social justice what the Hays Code was to the family values tradcons of yesteryear. Frankly, I would like to live in a world where both of these entities can be told to fuck off in no uncertain terms, and we could go back to an era like the late 80s and the 90s, where, frankly, the tradcons had been BTFO'd so severely that they had no power, and the social justice left had not gained ascendancy quite yet. That would be my idea of win state. Not a world in which the opposite kind of moralistic authoritarianism exists, but a world in which neither variety of moralistically authoritarian censorious bullshit exists. Neither social justice nor family values, if you please. but I can dream. Hopefully someday we will get to some kind of equilibrium where we can, like, come together and say both of these ideas were bullshit and should be shunned entirely from the public sphere. Moving on.
Continues, we are all aware of the difficult political climate in gaming and the wider world. We understand openly presenting ourselves as a diverse and inclusive company could be seen as a risk. However, as outlined below, the data from previous Pride events as well as the pronoun change in old school clearly shows that despite a vocal minority engaging in bigoted behavior online, this did not translate to a loss of revenue.
And again, you need to come to terms with the fact that people who disagree with you have morally valid reasons for disagreeing with you. Not everyone who thinks that Pride is an insufferable wank fest is a bigot. Some of us happen to be fucking gay ourselves and don't particularly fancy being coddled and preened at every June. And I would very much like to go back to a world in which I wasn't being coddled and preened at every June, if it's all the same to y'all. I hate to be cliche and be the embodiment of the meme, but I just want to be able to walk down the street with my future hypothetical significant other and kiss or hug or make out or whatever else the fuck couples do and not have people, like, be grossed out and glaring at us. That's my ideal win state. My ideal win state is one in which I find my, one and only, and then we can walk down the street and no one need comment on it if we decide to hug or hold hands or kiss or do any of the other shit couples always do.
So legitimately about 90% or 95% of actual fucking things, right?
Yeah, ideally, in my ideal world, we wouldn't be lauded as heroes for being publicly out, but nor would we be shunned or lynched or burned at the stake. Granted, there's like 3 different levels of my identity that would likely get me burnt at the stake in certain places of the world, but que sera, sera. That's just the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Point being, I don't see the point of LGBT activism. I don't see the point of Pride. I think most of these things are counterproductive, and I sure as shit revile the idea of critical queer theory, because fuck your neo-Hegelian bullshit. You don't get to weaponize my identity and tell me from some kind of academic pulpit that I'm politically aligned with you because of my identity. Piss off. Moving on.
Alright, Letter's author went on to state, "We're writing to you because we believe in Jagex, we believe in our players, and we believe that not giving into hate is the right decision in the business in the long term." Jagex executive team responded to the open letter in an email on the 22nd of May. The response, according to an anonymous employee, altered the previous answer to allow the inclusion of pre-programmed Pride content that was on a timer. Explained what they suggested before would have required more development time to remove the recurring annual content. In their email, Jagex management also told staff, "As a studio, we must stay grounded in the mission we all share, and that's making great games for players. Our job is not to use the game as an outlet for our own views, but to craft worlds that serve our players, offering immersion, escape, and meaning."
Based. That part of the fucking press release is fine. Why in the fuck does there need to be any of the rest of this shit? And by the way, for the record, once again, to repeat myself, there are reasons to oppose Pride that have nothing to do with being hateful towards gay people. There are reasons to oppose LGBT activism that have nothing to do with hating gay people. And there are reasons to oppose basically any form of critical theory that have nothing to do with hating anyone, and everything to do with the fact that critical theory and all of the other neo-Hegelian baggage that comes along with it ruins everything it touches because it is explicitly anti-merit, anti-beauty, anti-substance, and anti-rationality. not to mention anti-meritocracy. So, yeah, I don't oppose Pride because I hate myself or other gay people or whatever else the fuck. I hate Pride because it's insufferable, preening nonsense, and it is politically woven into a series of ideologies born from the Frankfurt School, born from critical theory, and born from neo-Hegelianism that ruin everything they touch because they are opposed to beauty, opposed to merit, opposed to rationality, opposed to straightforwardness, opposed to plain definitions, and opposed to basically every norm under the yellow sun, and several not under the yellow sun. That is why I oppose these things. Not because they are gay, but because they use gay people as human shields for an anti-merit, anti-quality, anti-virtue, anti-reason, and anti-straightforwardness Trojan horse. And I don't fancy being anyone's Trojan horse. Moving on.
Last part of that responsibility asks each of us to apply good judgment and to make creative decisions that resonate across a wide and diverse community, and that's what we've tried to do here.
Okay, here's the thing about diversity. Okay, because this is the thing. This is the difference between lowercase d diversity, which I do support, and uppercase d diversity, which I don't support. Lowercase d diversity implies diversity of framework, diversity of worldview, and diversity of thought. These forms of diversity are worth pursuing. In uppercase d diversity's case, what you get is a world where everyone can have slightly different identity decals, but they operate within the same political, moral, and social framework. And I do not support that. I am a pluralist by not only necessity, but also by dint of pluralism being correct and based. Meaning that there should, in fact, be people with different worldviews and different frameworks and different reasons for believing in things or not believing in things, instead of a world where everyone can have whatever identity they want, but the second they take one political step out of line, they're unpersoned and accused of internalized self-hatred or some other bullshit. That is the issue. I want actual meaningful diversity, and actual meaningful diversity necessitates a difference in frameworks, worldviews, and ideologies, not just surface level differences in identity. And frankly, people shouldn't be so hyperfixated on their identity to begin with anyway. But that's neither here nor there. Moving on.
JX is a strong supporter and ally of the LGBTQ plus community.
Piss off.
Okay. Sorry, give me a second. Fucking eye. I'm stuck. What the fuck? What? Sorry.
You okay?
It's...
For a second there, I was worried you were disconnecting or something.
No, I'm just fucking. Yeah, I woke up at 6 today, so. That probably explains it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta learn to take a fucking nap on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Okay. When approached for comment, an spokesperson responded, Jagex is a strong supporter and ally of the LGBTQ plus community with a firm belief that our games should be a safe space for all our players and celebrates people of all identities. Excuse me.
Does that include people who identify as things that are opposed to you? Because again, this is the thing. The dirty little secret of social justice or wokeness is equality for everyone except the people who disagree with us is the thing. And again, as a pluralist, I don't support that shit. Because what that essentially amounts to is people with all sorts of different decals on their identity, but complete lockstep politically, morally, and socially. And fuck that noise. This is the thing. What do you think your pride messaging sends to the gamers who aren't, in favor of the pride messaging? And just before you go, well, they're all bigots, etc., I would like to point out once again, you don't have to be gay to dislike pride. Or rather, you don't have to be bigoted to dislike pride. There are plenty of gay people, like myself, who find pride to be insufferably counterproductive most of the time. And frankly, the idea that you can't think of any reason for people to disagree with you other than, well, you must either be evil or stupid, is the insufferable bit. It means that you've never listened to anyone who opposes you ideologically. And if your game doesn't allow for ideological identity differences, not just superficial, inherent identity differences, then your game has a bigger problem than just, well, we want to celebrate Pride Month. Because again, presumably you want as many people to buy your shit as possible, which means you should be in favor of a system that encourages diversity of thought. And unfortunately, freedom is in many ways anathema to safety. Because for some people to be safe, other people have to have their freedom squashed. And I don't support that shit. Moving on.
In April, we took the decision to pause work on new in-game Pride content for 2025 and communicated this with our team. Our development focus is on crafting worlds that what our players have been asking us for, offering immersion, escape, and meaning. Our existing Pride content from previous years remains live in-game, as was always our intention, and we are proud to support our community-led Pride marches, which have been taking place this week. Alongside this, we're working with our internal DEI committee to explore broader, more meaningful ways to celebrate Pride across JX, including possible partnerships and charitable support. Our goal is to listen, learn, and find better ways to support all players and employees.
Does that include people who think differently than you or have different ideologies than you? Because if your definition of inclusion doesn't include people with different philosophical frameworks, you can piss off. Also, I forgot what the second thing I was going to say was, but fuck. Trying to think of the other thing I was going to say. Okay, yes, I remember now. Take note of this, folks. They just admitted that all the other previous Pride stuff is still going to be a thing. They're just not going to add new shit to it. And yet, for some reason, not adding new shit to it qualifies as caving to the pressure, quote unquote. Never mind that there are, again, gay people who don't particularly like or fancy Pride, and also, by the way, escapism is bullshit. That's not really germane to this particular topic, but they've referenced escapism like 3 or 4 times now, and escapism is a bullshit straw man that no one should embrace. But that's neither here nor there. Moving on. Oh wait, no. The other thing I was going to mention, there should not be such a thing as a DEI department in any company ever. Just like there shouldn't be a Hays Code department or a Bowdlerization department or a Frederick Wortham department. You know, those kind of moralistic, censorious bullshit things that they had in yesteryear that caved and catered specifically to evangelical twats. DEI is just the social justice equivalent of that. And personally, for me, I would prefer a world in which neither of these types of moralistic censoriousness existed. Anyway, moving to the next topic.
Yep. So, Dalton sent this one. God damn it. Hold on. Fucking ads. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, it's from unionradio.com. No merit, no effort. Anthony Mackie breaks the mold by saying that success in film is a matter of privilege, not hard work. This written by Laura M., published June 12th, 2025.
I hate to break it to you, Anthony, but the woo-woo bullshit of social justice is a kind of privilege because it preferentially treats people like you better than other people. So if you're complaining about nepotism and complaining about privilege, you might want to throw ideological privilege into that pile as well. Moving on.
Anthony Mackie is the new Captain America in 2025 movie Brave New World. Have you heard about him? On the podcast The Pivot, Mackie, at 46 years old, shared the following thought. We're lying to our kids. We tell them that if they work hard, they'll achieve anything, but it's not true. Luck also plays a role. I mean...
Well, obviously, duh. But point being, all other things being equal, you can't just hope to get shit handed to you on a silver platter unless you happen to be a recipient of nepotism. The problem, Mr. Mackie, is you don't appear to realize that ideological nepotism is very much a thing, and it is one of the main crux of what used to be called social justice and is now called wokeness. I personally would prefer a world in which people, all other things being equal, got merit. However, you complaining about it seems to be existing just because you are salty that your quote-unquote Captain America movie was not as successful as any of the other 3 Captain America movies. And that is because, I hate to break it to you, Anthony, but you are not Captain America. I don't care what the company calls you, just like having Sam Wilson retire from being the Falcon and become Captain America, quote unquote, in the comics, it's bullshit. You should not be wearing another character's identity as a mantle, especially because there's no organic reason to pick Sam over Bucky. And frankly, in my ideal world, no one would have tried to replace Steve Rogers as Captain America because both Bucky and Sam would have realized that neither of them can fill Steve's shoes, but they might be able to if they work together. And then Captain America 4, which would probably be called something else entirely, maybe like White Wolf and Falcon or something. That's just off the top of my head. But yeah, in a sane world, Sam and Bucky would have came to the conclusion that neither of us can be Steve or replace Steve, but we can fill the void he left if we work together. And it would have been a good setup for like a buddy cop story or a buddy movie. But instead, they didn't go with the Winter Soldier, who had actually taken a form of the super soldier serum, making him more capable of being a Captain America-like character, and B, was Steve's oldest best friend, and so would have made more sense continuity-wise to fill that void if someone decided that they needed to fill it. But instead, to you, Sam Wilson, as played by Anthony Mackie, even though he already had his own identity, his identity of the Falcon. Moving on.
So he and I, for record, Don and I have gone back and forth about the whole Captain America title thing. Not going to start here, obviously, but I think if anyone, just story purpose wise, and it's my own personal belief, right? I'm not trying to make an argument or anything. Dalton just wants you to know that. Just putting my thoughts there. I do think it kind of would have made more sense to be Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
Just
And I still hold to the idea that the most sensible position is for neither of them to take it and have them realize that they need to buddy up in order to fill the hole that Steve left.
I get that. I'm not arguing against it. I'm just more or less, I'm not arguing you on the idea because I think it makes sense. But I'm thinking I'm just working with how they work, how Marvel works. And if you got to put one singular character in the role of Captain America, as much as I don't really care or really like the idea, right? I think
Bucky makes a little bit more organic sense than Sam would.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, the most sensible position there, even if you wanted to strip it down just to Bucky, would be make a series of White Wolf movies.
Okay, yeah, no, that's also fair. Or like, maybe a special presentation or something. It's weird they haven't done many of those, actually.
No, they've only done. I think they've only done Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Christmas special thing.
Anyway, so just because.
Yep. Moving forward.
And it's true, these words have always been repeated to us that the harder we work, the more we achieve. But what if that promise isn't entirely true? It never was. Mackie comes to tell us that life has its own rules, and that even if we work hard, we don't always see the results we want. What role does luck play in our lives? Do you believe in luck? I don't believe in luck because if luck exists, then I have the worst fucking luck imaginable in my fucking life.
Well, that does maybe. I do believe in luck, but I think only a lazy fucker attributes anything to luck. No one says, in fact, most people frequently will say things like life isn't fair. No one says that the amount of work you put in is 1-to-1 with the results you will get. The statement usually is, all other things being equal, meaning barring some other factor, it's better to put in hard work than it is to not. Yes, some people will live a charmed life where they will be handed everything they want on a silver platter. And yes, there will be some people who will work themselves to the bone to no avail for their entire lives. But all other things being equal, meaning taking externalities out of the equation, the ratio is, if you want to get something, you have to give something. And I'm sorry, Anthony, but given how things shaped up with Cap 4, I get the feeling that if Cap 4 had made $1.5 billion like Civil War did, you wouldn't be saying this. I'm guessing that the reason you're hyperfixating on this, well, everything is privilege and luck and nothing is merit or skill related, is because you are salty that people can't really accept you as Captain America, mostly because you were already the Falcon and should have kept that identity regardless. And also because rather than have the who gets the mantle of Captain America passed to them have some sort of organic, in-universe explanation to it. They gave it to you because that's what All New, All Different Marvel did, and the reason why All New, All Different Marvel did it was because they wanted to hyperfixate on the idea of a black Captain America, even if it means erasing Sam's already existent identity as the Falcon.
I do also want to point this out. Isaiah Bradley, who was kind of a retcon character, let's be fully honest on that, but a good, cool character, right? Is the forgotten Captain America after Steve Rogers and before like any other person who got the mantle after him, retroactively, obviously, because again, I think he was only created in like the 2000s or something.
I thought he was created in the 70s.
Hold on. I'm just gonna look that up real quick. But if I'm good, it also bugs me that we didn't see Elijah Bradley in Brave New World to set him up.
Right.
No.
And then there's the other issue of Captain America. Honestly, is one of those characters that shouldn't be a mantle to begin with. It's kind of like how they will sometimes have Dick Grayson put on the bat cowl, but it always defaults back to Bruce Wayne because we all know that Batman honestly shouldn't be a mantle.
I don't know about that one, but I can see your point at the very least. 2002 was
okay. So it was more recent than I thought it was. Never mind. But point being,
over 20 years ago now.
Yeah, but still more recent than I thought it was because, like I said, I thought it was the 70s. But point being, one, when did we collectively decide that Captain America needed to be a mantle in the first place? Two, why does the Captain America mantle have to supplant the already existing mantles for the already existing characters? And three, without any sort of in-universe reasoning behind why Sam becomes Cap, either in the All New, All Different story that the MCU is trying to emulate or in the MCU itself, without there being some really good, solid setup for Sam being Cap, he shouldn't have been Cap. Frankly, I maintain that neither of them should have been Cap. It should have been.
You don't need to repeat it every time.
I know, but for clarity's sake. Frankly, I wish they had just let the Captain America mantle go and started a new franchise of Sam and Bucky buddy movies. Again, maybe something like White Wolf and Falcon or something like that. But apparently no, because we have to follow All New, All Different Marvel off the cliff, and they didn't bother making any universe reason for it either, so we won't bother either. This is the other problem of phases 4 through, I guess, 6 now, because apparently Thunderbolt was the last cinematically released movie in phase 5. According to the Marvel timeline. The biggest problem with phases 4 through 6 is, one, y'all didn't use the shutdown time during COVID for anything, apparently. You should have been using that time to figure out what you wanted the next storyline to be. But you sat there twiddling your thumbs for 3 years for no good goddamn reason. And two, rather than adapting any of the, dozens of storylines in between the Infinity Gauntlet storyline and the All New, All Different reboot, you jumped the line and moved right to the All New, All Different era, even though the All New, All Different era was insufferably shit for its entire tenure. And none of the new characters that were born out of the All New, All Different era really landed with anybody because they were all shit.
Hey, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on? Or?
Yep, moving on.
Okay. The myth of success, hard work versus luck. For Mackey, the idea that hard work alone is enough to achieve success is dangerous and not real at all. If you do everything right, get good grades in school, study hard, exercise, have discipline, that doesn't guarantee anything, he said. But what happens when success isn't earned? What does this mean? That not everything always plays in our favor, and while it doesn't take away the value of personal effort, I believe that luck, circumstances, and connections play a fundamental role. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, you are so salty, Anthony. Seriously. No one ever said success is born through hard work alone. And like I said, we all know examples of people who lead a charmed life and have everything handed to them on a silver platter. Or I guess in your case, on a silver shield. But Tish. But the statement is, all other things being equal, someone who puts in effort will be more successful than someone who puts in no effort. Yes, sometimes there are what are referred to in philosophy as negative externalities, which I think is also used in economics. There are negative externalities that can cripple someone who does put in a lot of effort, or buoy up a person who puts in very little effort. But in order to function as, sapient beings, we operate on the assumption that in order to get somewhere, you actually have to put in effort to get to that place. And all this salty bitching is doing is making it very obvious that you are annoyed that that Sam Wilson couldn't make as much money as Steve Rogers could. Granted, this could have been resolved by making a Falcon movie and not trying to ape a mantle that is not your own to take, but that's, neither here nor there. You wanted Cap 4 to somehow make as much money as Civil War or even Winter Soldier. The problem being, maybe merit isn't everything, but as a general rule, people like seeing more effort put in than less effort put in. And thus, people were very obviously aware that Captain America 4 was a massive step down from any of the previous 3 Captain America movies. And as a result, it got mostly lukewarm box office. Frankly, I wish... Yeah, moving on.
And okay, so I should have finished the last sentence as well. And indeed, many experts agree talent and hard work are key, but they're not everything. Then there's Mackey. Okay, moving on to Mackey's story. Mackey had been an actor for years before landing this role at Captain America. He graduated in 2001 from Juilliard School, one of the prestigious conservatories in the U.S., and participated in Oscar-winning films like The Hurt Locker. But this young man from New Orleans struggled to get into Hollywood, and not because he didn't work hard. The actor confirmed that he spent almost 11,000 hours training. He tried to contact Marvel Studios and nothing. Letters he sent didn't get him any role at the time, but he would land his role years later, even though he accepted to appear in the movie without really knowing what role he was going to play.
Okay, that is very much a you problem. If you signed up for something before asking what role you were playing, I'm sorry, but that's a you problem. And not to be a dick, but a Juilliard graduate should not be able to say anything about a lack of privilege. Because there are 2 ways to get into Juilliard. One is to be a once-in-a-generation genius talent, which, not to be mean, but Anthony Mackie isn't, or to be a rich cunt. And given that we can be reasonably sure that Anthony Mackie isn't a once-in-a-generation talent, that leaves us with he got into Juilliard because he was a rich cunt. And anyone who's rich enough to buy their way into Juilliard without a scholarship, sod it. You shouldn't be able to talk to anyone about privilege. Because again, Juilliard is to the arts what Harvard, Princeton, and Yale are to law, physics, and I forget what Yale is known for. Harvard is known for Harvard is known for its law school. Princeton is known for its physics program. Yale is known for business. Business or politics, I think. But yeah, Juilliard is to the arts what the Ivy League schools are to their respective fields. And given that we can be fairly certain that you didn't get in on a full ride scholarship, Anthony, that means you either were rich growing up or you were connected growing up. And so you don't know. You don't.
Dalton.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think he was technically rich. Just very dedicated because he well, he's the son of a carpenter. Just
Okay, but what's the rest of the story though? Because we know he didn't get on a full ride scholarship.
just says here attended New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, graduated from high school drama program at the to be honest, I'm looking at the I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page and seems slightly stuck.
Yeah, forgive me for being cynical, but my brain is telling me to follow the money. If he didn't have money, then someone in his family must have, or
his brother's
must have been politically connected or something.
Can you, Don? May I speak?
Go ahead.
Thank you. He has a brother who's a former professor of engineering at Tulane University. I don't know.
I don't think that's related. Point being, before we got sidetracked off into this cul-de-sac, anyone who went to Juilliard and didn't go on a full ride scholarship can't talk to anyone about privilege, because that's to the arts what an Ivy League school is in like business or STEM. So yeah, you Juilliard graduate, you don't get to confect the sob story of, oh, I was so oppressed growing up. Derp. I suspect you're one of those people who either grew up middle class or upper middle class and thought that meant that they were poor because they weren't as rich as their rich friends.
Well, given how today's economy is, upper middle class is still pretty much poor.
Well, yeah, but that's 20 years after Anthony would have went to Juilliard, so who knows? But point being, you're looking down on the masses from your ivory tower and calling them fucking privileged.
I feel like you're projecting there, but okay. I'm not agreeing with what he's saying. Obviously, I'm just thinking
he went to Juilliard, and now he wants to talk about not getting enough lucky breaks or privilege. So yeah, sawed off.
Well, Juilliard, I'll be honest, man, I don't really give a shit about Juilliard.
The point is, it's basically to the arts what an Ivy League school is.
I got you on that. I just okay. I
because he definitely didn't get like a full ride or some shit. So that means from somewhere he must have got money or connections to go to Juilliard. And anyone who went to Juilliard not on a full ride doesn't get to talk to anyone else about privilege, because that's like
okay. Don, you're repeating.
Yeah. Point being, shut up about privilege, you obviously privileged hypocrite.
You already said that.
Yeah, moving on.
Alright, yeah, blessed by luck. Mackie, god damn it, I am so fucking tired. Mackey isn't the only one who believes luck plays an important role in every decision. This is also affirmed by the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger, who says he never wanted to get rich, but simply wanted to be independent, and it happened. It doesn't happen to us, of course.
I mean, no one is saying luck doesn't play a role, but what seems to be implicitly being said here, if not explicitly, is that merit doesn't play a role. And that's bullshit. Because what's the difference between one extremely rich brat and another extremely rich brat? Well, one extremely rich brat can basically be a hedonist and live off of their inherited wealth, and another extremely rich brat might actually decide to make something of themselves and actually increase their fortunes, etc. Meaning that all other factors being equal, i.e., you take two people who have the same opportunities, the same luck, the same privilege, whatever, and you compare the two, all other things being equal, the one who works harder and has talents and merits is going to go further, generally, than the person who doesn't. Yes, there are contrary examples, but contrary examples don't disprove the trend. The trend being, if you work hard, all other things being equal, you will get somewhere. Maybe not to the top, because there are rigged games out there, and let's not pretend they aren't, but you will get to a better place through hard work than you will from sitting on your ass. And anyone who disagrees with that is just salty, or a champagne socialist who's never had to actually suffer in their life, and therefore probably shouldn't be talking about the concept of privilege. Moving on.
Alright, it's not just about work, it's about luck, and that moment is right for you. That the moment is right for you. You know what they say about being in the right place at the right time and having the right connections? Well, something like that.
Yeah, but luck doesn't guarantee everything. You can take two lucky people, and one can wind up in the slums, and the other can wind up in the C-suite. The difference, the factor that makes quite a bit of difference is if you work hard, you will get somewhere. Maybe not to everywhere you'd hope to get, maybe not to, the place you dreamed about getting, but if you put in the effort, generally, you will get further than the person who doesn't put in any effort at all. Yes, there are contrary examples because some people have silver spoons in their mouths from the day they're born, and some people have to work their way up from a hole in the ground. But as a general rule, all other factors being accounted for, hard work does make a difference. And the only people who don't think that are salty bitches or champagne socialist cunts. Usually a little bit of both. Moving on.
Alright, call to educate with realism. The actor suggests that telling kids that only personal effort determines their destiny can create frustration when things don't turn out as expected. I'm not saying don't work hard. Hold on.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not saying don't work hard, Mackie clarifies. What I'm saying is that you should also understand that there are factors beyond your control. Recognizing that life has, to be fair, this is the end of the quote was factors beyond your control. I'm just finishing the part here. Recognizing that life has unexpected events doesn't demotivate. On the contrary, it can help build more flexible people with greater adaptability. Okay.
And again, what is the point then of this whole thing and what you said in the interview? Again, it seems like it's coming from a very salty, very bitter place, because you thought getting the role of quote unquote Captain America would mean that you would have the same results as Chris Evans did. And sorry, no, people like Steve Rogers more than they like Sam Wilson, and people like a purer than Driven Snow Paragon character a little bit more in this particular context than they like a cynical quote unquote realist, which is really just softcore nihilist position. That's one of the reasons why That's
Sorry.
why one of the reasons why that you have to do better speech from Falcon and the Winter Soldier fell flatter than a fucking iron ingot being tossed off of a tower.
Hey,
Because that kind of cynical, like, eat the rich bullshit is exactly what makes Sam Wilson not likable.
Hey. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna slightly disagree with you there about the replacement. I think the issue was more or less the mischaracterization of Sam Wilson than anything else. Because comparatively to how he's written in Falcon the Winter Soldier and Captain America Brave New World, his other appearances are actually fine as a character, right? I don't know who changed what or whatever in the writer's room, but there was a really weird shift in personality or like perspective of the character.
It's because in Falcon and the Falcon and the Winter.
Can I say?
You stopped. Don't yell at me for picking up when you stopped talking. God damn it! I know you're tired, but you need to stop bitching at me because you are tired. Get the fuck off.
No, I think I might have started to cut out. That's why I was trying to like. I'm sorry I yelled. I was just trying to like get you to hear me because I wasn't sure if I was coming through.
I didn't mean to yell at you as well, but that's like the third time you've cut me off just because you're getting tired, and I can tell.
No, I was just actually that time I wasn't tired. I was just like trying to. I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea because it seems like the internet's being weird right now, so I don't know if I'm coming in or out or not. Like, am I fine right now? Or
yeah, you're fine. As far as I can tell, you're okay right now.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to talk. I think I don't know. I might have cut out a moment there when you thought I stopped talking. So again, sorry for yelling. I wasn't.
Anyway, go ahead.
Where was I? Writer's room. Shift in personality. Fuck. I had it, but
I attribute that to when they were writing him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They wanted to basically make him like a BLM Captain America, essentially,
right?
And they wanted to cash in on the like George Floyd bullshit,
even though that was thing. Right, even though that was over for like how many years?
Well, yeah, but this is the problem of Hollywood chasing like current politics and like modern relevance and shit. By the time they catch up to something that's quote unquote relevant, it's already over.
Yes. Okay, I remembered. Kind of back. Well, not piggybacking off you, but adding context. Comparatively to his comparative to his okay, so yeah, I'm tired, so my brain is like slow. I don't fucking okay, first appearance, Captain America Winter Soldier, right? One thing, he is a therapist at the VA, which I remember someone actually bringing this up because they should have focused on that with his dynamic between him and Walker in Falcon the Winter Soldier, because Walker is clearly a soldier who has gone through a lot of shit, PTSD and all that stuff, issues, but they actively make him antagonistic, which was weird, right? Like him and Bucky. Well, okay, I could kind of understand that they don't know him, but it just feels like they being the outwardly like extremely hostile thing.
Yeah, the writers were writing them as adversaries because they wanted to make the quote unquote political point that privileged white guy gets shit handed to him bullshit, instead of I don't know what they should have brought up. What in fact I hated Falcon and the Winter Soldier in particular because they forgot how the fucking serum works. I keep bringing it up whenever we talk about the serum, but it's because it's like my favorite line from Captain America: The First Avenger. The way the serum works is it amplifies whatever's already there. Good becomes great, bad becomes worse. Which that is a reason why you shouldn't have stuck John Walker with the serum, because he has PTSD. And someone with PTSD should not be taking the super soldier serum, because the serum is going to amplify that mental breakdown, just like it amplified I forget the Red Skull's name before he was the Red Skull.
Johann Schmidt.
Yeah, just like it amplified all the evils and neuroses and psychological imperfections of Schmidt and turned him into the Red Skull, and just like it took the damaged child rage issues of Bruce Banner, because in the MCU the Hulk experiments were in a way an attempt to replicate the super soldier serum.
Right.
Just like it amplified Bruce's abused inner child and turned it into the Hulk.
So sorry.
It turned John Walker's PTSD into uncontrollable psychotic rage, which is why he ended up beating that one guy to death.
I have seen people defend that though, and I kind of get it, but also I won't disagree. It did amplify his issues, but he had shown that he into his core is a good man in that show, and in the end of the show, and in Thunderbolts, more or less. Yes, he's an asshole. I'm obviously not like saying John Walker's perfect. I'm never going to say that, but in his core, he is a good person.
He's trying. He's just broken and damaged and shit.
Yeah, like.
But
I think before we move on, right?
Yeah.
One thing I think we can agree with a lot of the series from that Marvel released. It kind of would have helped if there were like maybe 1 or 2 more episodes in the seasons.
Well, that, or if it weren't written by politically motivated hacks who turned Antifa into anti-heroes.
No, I know, but to be fair, we mention that all the time, so I just didn't want to catch low-hanging fruit there at the moment.
But just for the record, fuck the people who wrote Falcon and the Winter Soldier for turning Sam Wilson from an otherwise pretty likable person into a stand-in for BLM, and turned the Flag Smashers into globalist Antifa with super soldier serum.
Honestly, okay, I would have been fine with that if they actually, at least, instead of trying to make them like
right.
Yeah. Like, okay, even if when they were trying to do morally gray, I would have been also fine with, but they haven't ever went far enough, or they never like
It's a framing issue. They tried to frame the kind of global environmentalist bullshit that the Flag Smashers believed in Falcon and Winter Soldier as essentially the good guys. And for the record, Braden Stromer and myself are very passionate about this particular topic. This was literally the stupidity that incentivized us to create the Lionhearted universe. And one of the first villains we discussed in the Lionhearted universe is a Lionhearted equivalent of the Flag Smashers, which we called the Judges. But that's neither here nor there.
To be fair, that's the translation of that name. We actually
we used an old Celtic term for it, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But point being, the genesis of everything that's wrong with Cap 4 began in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And I have, to be fair, a lot of stuff post Endgame, post Infinity War. Let's be fully honest.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried my hardest and damned it to make it all work.
Yeah.
like try and rewrite it, but
And
it gets
most of those ideas did eventually make it into the Lionheart universe, if anyone's
Yeah.
curious.
But the issue, to be fair, I've also like even the more recent stuff I've tried to figure out. The issue is there are too many ideas, even in just the original project itself, that are there but don't get utilized, or
Well, and then there's the issue of only about a third of all the projects actually tie into the idea of the multiverse saga. Like you have No Way Home, you've got Multiverse of Madness, you've got a little bit of WandaVision, you've got the Marvels ending, which didn't really make sense with the rest of the movie, but whatever. And then you've got Deadpool and Wolverine. Those are basically all oh well and What If. And the other problem is between that, the fact that only about a third of all the projects actually tie into the multiverse as a concept thing, and the fact that like 2/3 of stuff post Infinity War have been shit in varying degrees. Even some of the stuff that realistically should tie in, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, or like I said, the third act of the Marvels, or trying to think of other things that should probably realistically tie into to the multiverse. Loki, of course, although that's fine. That also would count. But point being, only about a third of the stuff explicitly ties into the multiverse, and at least a third of that is arguably shit. So, and then there's the issue of most of the setup that should have gone to Doom, if they had known they were doing Doom from the get-go, went to Kang. And then I'm not gonna blame them for the Jonathan Majors thing, because that really was outside of their control.
Yeah.
But thanks to the Jonathan Majors thing and the fact that only he can play Kang as per his contract,
which is dumb.
Yeah, it's really, really stupid.
But I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, obviously, but I just have a tangent about that.
Go ahead.
If it's the multiverse saga, and not only the fact that it happened in No Way Home, third one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I blocked most.
Where they had the various Spider-Man actors, I assume is what you're meaning.
Yeah. My point, obviously, being, we can have multiple actors of that. Hell, even like Fantastic Four, the fucking, in Dr.
Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness, which frankly they should have kept as Reed, but
I don't know. I don't see it, but okay.
I mean, he's better than Pedro Pascal.
I disagree on that, but okay.
Or at least better than I think Pedro Pascal likely has the potential to be. But that's not there. I guess we will see in about a month whether Pedro Pascal can actually do a convincing Reed Richards, or rather, will the writing of the movie let him play a convincing Reed Richards? Because there's the other thing of there's a lot of rumors about Sue upstaging him and shit. So who knows?
But my point being with the Kang thing is, why the fuck wouldn't they just let there be multiple different versions of Kang, which would have made it fucking easier if the actor either had to step away or passed away or whatever, obviously.
Or scheduling conflicts or any of the other things that could have very easily happened.
Yeah, and not to mention, if you have Kang, then at some point you're going to have, Nathaniel Richards, a.k.a. Iron Lad, show up, and that has to be a young version of Kang. Jonathan Majors can't play that character. So, like...
I think it's bold of you to assume they had plans of bringing in Iron Lad.
I would assume so, because they were literally building up the Young Avengers. Let's be... all the characters they were bringing in, not to mention the...
Wasn't Iron Lad on Champions, though, rather than the Young Avengers?
No, he was specifically on the Young Avengers. You know what? I'm not going to fault you for not knowing that because you would only be focused on the gay couple of Young Avengers.
Which, realistically, I'm not gonna get my boys because
I know.
even though they did a really good rendition of Billy in Agatha All Along, and I am grateful for that. I am so grateful that they didn't massacre my boy. But be that as it may, I think based on what they've set up so far, rather than have it be Hulkling rather than have it be Teddy as Hulkling in
Scar.
Young Avengers, it's probably going to be his son from the Planet Hulk story that appeared in
Scar.
She-Hulk. Yeah, Scar.
Don't be
Which
sorry.
which I guess I'm not opposed to, but they're really gonna have to do a lot to fix him in between now and whenever we see him again, because
That design was
She-Hulk is not a good starting position. Like Billy had an amazing starting position in Agatha, but poor Scar has not had a good starting position.
So for the record, I do think we're gonna have to hold off on the PC Gamer article until next week, just because one, I'm not on the verge of passing out on stream, which actually would be funny, but just kind of tired, you know.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we are gonna place that for next week. I know we got a lot of other stuff for next week, but anyway, we're almost done with this. How to make them? Well, okay, sorry, I did. I know tangents, but if you're not here for the tangents, what are you here for?
Yeah.
So I recently, because I've had multiple ideas on how to do Captain Marvel, because and I had a general idea that I worked out. Hold on, I have it written down. Give me a second, real quick. Find it. Oh, I might have. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, okay. So general idea. Well, I'm restructuring it, obviously, because it starts out as more of a space spy adventure kind of deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to Earth, kind of third act wise. Kind of an inversion of most stories regarding that. I'm keeping like the memory erasure thing, so it's kind of like it's a mix of like yeah, it's basically like superhero.
Who would you cast as Carol Danvers though?
I'd recast her, wouldn't you?
Well, because anyone with two brain cells to rub together would recast her.
Rebecca.
Honestly, I've been saying that for years. The only other person I would be willing to give a chance to play her would be Ronda Rousey if Ronda Rousey decided she wanted to take up acting. But yeah, we know that Rebecca Romijn can do the tough military brat shit because, well, to put it bluntly, anyone who's seen The Librarians knows about the character Colonel Eve Baird, and that should have been that could have very easily translated to Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
if they had cast Rebecca rather than Brie.
So, okay, so I keep in mind I just wrote like cliff notes of ideas for the plot.
Mm-hmm.
So, for one thing, keeping the classic Kree and Skrull war. I can speak English. From like the comics, right? Like they just generally hate each other and just.
Mm-hmm.
But
instead of doing a lazy refugee analogy.
Well, that's where it gets interesting here, because the idea was that the Skrulls that we see that are on Earth are not refugees, but are deserters of the war, along with Mar-Vell.
Hmm.
You know, people are sick of the fighting because that shit's been going on since basically dawn of time, right?
Which, I mean, to be fair, speaking as someone who lives in a country that might be heading towards war with Iran very soon, and grew up in the war on terror post 9/11 era, that is relatable as fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck war entirely.
Yeah, Star Force. Well, okay, so we have Marvell, who would be played by Glenn Powell. Like, yeah, I'm doing
Okay.
classic Marvell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had a child with the Scroll Princess.
So you would be setting up Hulkling then,
Yes. Figured you
because
like that.
I'm 1 out of 2 right now at the moment. I find the version of Billy we got in Agatha All Along completely acceptable, especially because he was frequently the most based character in that show. But that's neither here nor there.
All right. So yeah. Have the kid hidden on Earth. You know, it's like a very far away planet from like everything being done in the cosmos at the time.
So kind of doing a reference to Men in Black 2 with the whole Light of Zarfa thing, them fighting over the baby.
That was unintentional, but yeah, yeah.
I always liked that. Like, I know Men in Black 2 isn't as good as Men in Black 1 was, but I really did like at least the implications of that subplot, especially with the kind of implication that Kay was the father, which I also kind of liked. I wish they had done more with that subplot. That was really interesting.
You know, Marvell was killed by Yon-Rogg, who was the best friend of Marvell. That was an idea I had there.
Mm.
I also add Ronan. So I reworked Star Force.
Okay.
So Yon-Rogg, Ronan. So bring back Lee Pace, right?
Wait, didn't he die at the end of Guardians though?
This is set in the 90s.
Oh, okay. So he never. Okay, never mind. My brain forgot that was a period piece for a second.
They didn't do much with it. To be fair,
no, they really didn't.
To be fair, the 90s wasn't the 90s wasn't really that much. I don't know what you could pull from the period wise of it.
There's a lot they could have done if they let the media from the 90s influence the tone of the movie. Like if they made Captain Marvel in the vein of like a 90s sci-fi action movie, that could have worked in like a meta sense. But really the only reason the period piece aspect was there was because they needed a reason for her to be older than modern times, and why she wasn't around for the first 3 phases up until that point.
So Star Force is using an amnesiac Carol to find Marvel's child in order to use it to force the Skrulls to surrender and submit to them.
Mm-hmm. Wait, hold on. If we're keeping the 90s setting, then that means that Teddy would be too old for Billy come time for them to get busy. Because he'd be like almost like 35, where if things are set in a modern day. Unless you want to pull some kind of weird reduced aging shit with the Kree Skrull hybrid, which I suppose is possible, but still.
Well, I'm still having it that it would be a baby at this time, but you're not wrong. Well, it depends. Actually, when is Captain Marvel set? Because it could be the late 90s. Or maybe even early 2000s.
This is... Yeah, I don't remember the exact year. I'm sure Google would tell you if you went to Google.
Yeah, give me a second. Can't believe I'm doing this research for Captain Marvel.
Somebody had to, and the people who made the thing certainly weren't interested.
It's only 2 hours and 4 minutes long. No wonder it kind of sucked.
Yeah, that movie was so much just meh. It was meh on top of meh on top of meh.
Okay, it's
Oh, they did.
1995.
Okay, so that would make Teddy my same age then.
Okay. Well, okay, and Billy and Agatha All Along takes place in like 2020. What was it?
Well, it's after the events of Multiverse of Madness, which I think take place concurrently.
No, because they did the 5 years thing from
Right.
Endgame.
Okay. So
So Infinity War was 2019. No, that was 2018. Then 5 years.
and when Billy was last in the WandaVision hex, he was what, 12?
Hold on.
Right?
Yeah.
Like either 11 or 12.
So 2023 was Endgame.
Okay.
And then I think Brave New World was in, what was it, 2026 or no? Not Endgame. I mean Brave New World.
Brave New World. I think is meant to either be 2024 or 2028 because Roth had just been elected, I think. So
Hold on.
I'm leaning towards
2026,
2028.
2027.
Okay. I know there are 18 months between WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness.
Oh my god, this fucking thing. Okay. Well, oh, actually, it could make more sense if it's set in. Oh fuck! How old is Billy?
In Agatha All Along, he was 16.
It'd still be too old.
That's how he got the teen nickname.
He'd still be too fucking old. That's fuck.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a shame that no one thought of that while they were making the goddamn projects. Although to be fair, timeline gets screwy with Billy because the body he's in, I think, was 15 to begin with, and his consciousness was still like 12. So,
Oh wait, no, wait. Didn't he get? Okay, so he got because Billy's mind transferred to Billy Kaplan.
To William Kaplan.
After the events of WandaVision, and it's supposed to take what 2-3 years between Agatha All Along.
That's a good question.
They made mention. I know they made mention of it in the show.
Okay, I know that there are 18 months in between the events of WandaVision and the events of Multiverse of Madness. And Agatha has to be released from the spell after Wanda is gone / dead, because that's when the spell starts decaying, and she gets, Billy helps her out of it, and then death chips away at the last bit of it, and then she's awake. So
Wanda was under Agatha was under Wanda's hex for 3 years.
Okay. So yeah. So that means that Billy, with his consciousness of an 11 or 12-year-old, possesses William, who was, I want to say, 14 or 15 when the crash happened.
Okay, so before the accident, that basically William died and Billy took over.
Yep.
He had a Bar Mitzvah, and when Bar Mitzvah's celebrated?
13.
Well, he looked older, obviously. Okay, yeah, no, 13. I just wanted to double check on that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he would have been 16.
which he confirms in Agatha all along when Agatha is about to abandon him and says the road is no place for a kid, and he says I'm 16, and she says, "Oh, sorry, teen," and then the nickname sticks, especially because of Lilia's sigil blocking him from saying anything about himself.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work because timeline-wise, it just really doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Unless they have her, like, what, maybe?
It's somewhat screwy anyway because Billy and Tommy aged in sitcom times, so God only knows how much actual time passed there.
Anyway, how to make the most of luck. Richard Wiseman, author of The Luck Factor, believes that there are traits in common among those who benefit from luck, and we're going to tell you what those traits are, of course. They are optimistic even in the most challenging circumstances. They always seize new opportunities. They're open and adaptable to forge new connections. Listen to your intuition, trust your gut, and you're more likely to make quick decisions and new opportunities will come your way. And 4,
I'm good at the last two things. I'm good at listening to my intuition, my gut. Not very good at optimism.
I hadn't noticed.
But ding. There we go.
4, they bounce back quickly from setbacks, no moping around, always a positive attitude, even when the day is gray. Yeah, it's not you.
Yeah, I think we both struggle a little bit on that one. You're better at the optimism aspect, though. To be fair.
Anthony Mackie's point of view. Anthony Mackie's life reflects his message. I've seen incredibly talented people who never got an opportunity. He confesses he himself acknowledges that luck and the people who believed in him influenced his career as much as his dedication. Accepting that luck plays a role is not giving up. It's recognizing success isn't guaranteed and that not everyone has the same opportunities. He invites us to be more humble and less judgmental of those who fight without seeing results. So no, believing in luck doesn't make us weaker, but it helps us plant hope, but without illusions.
This still feels like a lot of post hoc bitching because Cap 4 didn't do well.
I don't see the point of this article.
Honestly, it almost feels like someone made this article out of like contempt for Mackie because all this article did was make Anthony Mackie look like a prick.
I don't know about that, but I don't know. The thing feels jumbled, right?
Because even if we're being like maximally charitable, all he said was shit that everyone knows already. Because literally no one thinks that hard work is the only factor, or at least no one who isn't frankly delusional to an almost self-harming degree thinks that hard work is the only factor. Like we all know that luck and opportunities play a role because, well, life exists. If you can make it to the age of like 20 still believing that hard work is the only factor, that's probably because you are way too privileged and isolated from the real world for the most part.
Raise your hand.
That doesn't apply to me. As you frequently remind me, I am a very cynical person. I don't naively believe in shit like that. Of the two of us, you tend to be the more optimistic one.
Okay. I just Pierre's being a little fritzy here, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is Dawn's favorite show that we'll be looking at a trailer for.
You do realize that I want to make your head explode Scanner style right now, right?
But you're not gonna.
No, god damn it. The world would not be worth putting up with if you weren't here. So, meh.
And that, folks, is what we call immunity.
That being said, if anything ever kills you, I'm going full, like, Night Horde Dracula from Castlevania.
Just... honestly, I will be fine if you just kill everyone in Seats of Power.
Well, given who is most likely to be to blame if anything negative happens to you, I don't suspect that you would disapprove of my choice of Scorched Earth.
I can give you a list of people who I want you to take out if I'm ever dead.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Might be a good subclause to add to your will. But yes, we have to now suffer through, because apparently, even though Neil Gaiman was Me Too'd, I can't even have a nice, like, abeyance of shit. So they decided to let him finish his Netflix adaptation of Sandman, and the world is a worse place because of it.
Oh, that reminds me. I meant to ask you something, like tweet it, like text it to you, but I guess I'll ask now, just simply because since we're here. Let me get a piece of paper to write on real quick. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I took me a second to find a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of related, but because, and for anyone who doesn't know, I've been working on a project for the last year or so of rewriting the DCEU. And I'm doing a version of Wonder Woman 1984.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves more lore of the Endless. And I had an idea for the ending of it, but I will get more into that with Dalton post stream if he's interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the question is, because I am curious. Okay, major spoiler, I guess, is I do plan on Death of the Endless having a cameo towards the end of the story. And I'm just, because I know you, I was just wondering who you would have cast as Death.
I picked a fan casting ages ago that Neil Gaiman actually saw and, like, retweeted and shit, which made me happy. at the time because Neil Gaiman wasn't quite as much of a putz. I can't even go back and look now though because I don't have access to my old Twitter account.
This would have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, around the time it got announced, maybe.
It's I mean, I technically have access to your old account. Like, I can look at it.
Yeah.
It would take me a minute though, but because I was either going to get the same actress who plays Death in here because I don't think she's bad. I was more of a actually.
Yeah, they just needed to actually bother with the makeup and the visual effects for their eyes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, though Death has human-looking eyes in the comics, if I remember correctly. So I'm not sure.
I don't know why they didn't bother with the makeup in this show, honestly. Like, you could literally probably just ask Glenn Hattrick, and he would probably do it pro bono just because he was a fan of the source material.
Why does the name sound familiar?
Because he was one of the judges on Face Off. He's also a practitioner. He's also a magical practitioner, which I didn't know until I looked him up on Twitter. And apparently, he's an occultist. Which, small world.
Honestly, given how he looks, that makes a lot.
Yeah, of sense. It didn't exactly surprise me either. But it was what it's always fun to find another practitioner in the world.
Also, I'm sorry, Face Off should never have been canceled on Sci-Fi.
No, they should have kept that. Like, this is the thing. I thought that Survivor ended in like the early 2000s, but apparently that's still been going all these years. So if freaking Survivor can go on for 30 plus seasons, I don't see any reason at all why Face Off couldn't have.
I think it had 10, at least.
Yeah, no, it had 10, but
Jim Henson's workshop, Creature Workshop.
Yeah,
I believe it was called.
Yeah,
one season. Only got one fucking season.
Yep. Bunch of cunts.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, for some reason, some people didn't like those shows. I don't get that.
Why? I can't think of a single reason not to love Face Off. Face Off is exactly the kind of like competition show that a geek should be interested in.
The cosplay was fine. Although it got a little too reality TV kind of.
Yeah, I didn't like that one so much because they went more for the drama mill.
Yeah.
Than they realistically should have.
Yeah, I should have been more for the craft and art and stuff.
Yeah, obviously The Expanse was good, and I will stand by The Magician as one of the best shows the Sci-Fi Channel ever made.
Yeah,
Still doesn't make up for what they did to Dresden Files, but it does demonstrate that they improved. So there.
Right. But yeah. Oh, right. That reminds me. I gotta get back to collecting Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
I got game. I've done it. I finished a game of You. I forgot the.
The next one I think is the August-September one. If I'm remembering, I don't remember what sixth trade is called. I just know it has a month motif for a bunch of short stories. The sixth one has the King of America in it, and it also has the one with Augustus Caesar in it.
You mean the Emperor?
Yeah.
Oh, America? No, that was another one. That was an earlier one. I remember reading that.
I don't remember what was in the sixth one then. Fuck. But in any case, for something Sandman related, because opium poppies are actually sacred to Hypnos and Oneros in Greek mythology. Poppies.
All right. I mean, well, let me get the captions on. Fuck, they weren't on to begin with. I don't. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Poppies.
Poppies.
It has begun. Dreams is returning to heaven.
Lord Morpheus comes to us in a futile attempt to free one he loves from our domain. Hell is anticipating his visit.
Again, something here feels off.
Yeah, it's just the production design is very low energy. The lack of makeup or like practical effects also hampers things significantly, and like based on the way season 1 ended, they're obviously going to be doing Season of Mist in like the first arc of this season. Presumably the same number or similar number of episodes as the previous season, so between like 10 and 15. Unfortunately, because this is going to be the last season, it probably means that they're either going to cram in a whole bunch of the short stories and standalone stories from the latter half of the trades, which sucks because that means we're probably not going to get an episode based on the Emperor of America. We're probably not going to get we're probably not going to get the story based on Augustus Caesar, which sucks. I'd say that we at least can avoid doing Game of You, but Neil Gaiman loves Game of You for some fucking reason, even though I think it's probably the worst of the series. Well, actually, no. The worst of the series are The Kindly Ones and The Wake, which unfortunately we're going to have to speed run because they want this to be the end of the story, which means they're going to jump right from Season of Mist to The Wake or The Kindly Ones, probably, which basically just means all the terrible shit. I really liked Season of Mist, but Season of Mist, to do Season of Mist correctly, you have to give it some room to breathe, because it has to, like, if I were doing this show, granted, if I were doing this show, there would be 500 different other things that would be better about it than it currently is. But if I were doing this show and for some reason had gotten saddled with this, like, already screwed up in the way that it is, I would have basically made Season of Mist the entire season-long arc. That way you could have had different episodes with Dream talking to the various representatives of the various different planes of existence. Also, because of the stupid thing they did in Season 1 and basically cut out all the DC references, that means we're probably not going to get the Lords of Order and Chaos making appearances. That means we're probably not going to get references to any of the other like supernatural pantheons throughout the DC universe. We might still get the Norse mythology reference because that's not quite as tied into the rest of the DC cosmology, so we're probably still going to get that one. The question of whether they're going to do Midsummer Night's Dream at all comes up, because on the one hand, I'm of two minds on whether or not they're going to do the Midsummer Night's Dream one. Because if they don't do Midsummer Night's Dream, then that means that I don't have to watch them butcher Midsummer Night's Dream. But if they don't do Midsummer Night's Dream, then that basically short-circuits the whole Shakespeare arc, which ties into events that pop up in the Wake episode. So they probably are going to butcher. The Midsummer Night's Dream episode, and they probably are also going to do Shakespeare as it ties into The Wake. I fucking hate The Wake and The Kindly Ones too, but like I said, it seems likely that they're going to avoid doing some of the one-off episodes and instead just do the major plot breaks, which would be Season of Mist and then Season of Mist and The Kindly Ones in The Wake, which basically means that this season is just going to be a downward spiral of Dream dying, and I hate it. But I don't get a vote. You'd think the Me Tooing of Neil Gaiman would have been enough to put season 2 of Sandman in development hell, and thus spare me the ruination of one of my favorite comics ever written, but apparently not. But poppies.
Most avidly. Nada loved you. She was right. It is wrong for us to get involved with them. You know that.
If I've committed a wrong, I must make it right.
See, this is another problem of the Netflix Sandman adaptation. They really went out of their way to make Dream look as much like a dick as possible, and to give everyone but him a sympathetic aspect to them. So, this is going to be a character assassination of Dream, and that he's going to die. And the show is probably going to want to make the case that it was a good thing for him to die. And I'm sorry, Neil, I don't care if that's how the original story ended, because the only reason the original story ended that way was so that DC couldn't play with your toys after you were done with them, and it never made logical sense in story, especially because trying to project morality onto the Endless doesn't make sense anyway, because as your version of Death was so fond of saying, I'm not good or evil, I'm just me, i.e., these are fundamental forces of the universe, and they shouldn't be held to mortal morality standpoints, especially because, and here's the other thing. This is the other thing that pisses me off. Even though Dream is probably the most, serious and willing to do his job at whatever cost he needs to of the Endless, it's not Desire and Despair who get bitch slapped for being amoral cunts. It's not Death who gets framed as being morally ambiguous, even though she is. And it's not... Honestly, there's no real point in having Delirium die, because she's probably the most innocent of the bunch. But point being, Desire and Despair are basically the closest thing that this story has to villains, and yet they don't get punished in the Wake. Dream gets punished in the Wake by the Fates when they show up as the Kindly Ones, hence why the previous trade is called that. But Desire and Despair get to be vindictive little shits the whole storyline through, and nobody bats an eye. And this is all even despite the premise, as Death points out, that the Endless aren't supposed to be moral or immoral. They're supposed to be a force of fucking nature. But Dream gets bitch slapped by the Fates because he gets, he breaks the rules, quote unquote. And so he dies for no reason that can be explained within universe. And the other Endless go on as though it's all normal. And I fucking hate it. Anyway, poppies.
When one of the Endless changes, that changes everything.
Prepare yourself, Dream. The end is coming.
I just realized something. Given how the first season handled the Fates, or Hecate, they basically robbed the Fates of all of their banter and all of their like ability to be funny or be engaging or be likable. So that means the Kindly Ones arc and the Wake arc are going to be even more shitty because we don't even have a reason to like the Fates as they were presented in season 1. And it's a little bit too late now to give the Fates a personality. Fuck. Hobbies.
Well, I had one thing to say. I meant to say it earlier, but I forgot until just now. I think my biggest issue with this is I know you got a lot more writing on this because I'm still a novice when it comes to like Sandman and the Endless stuff. So I'm looking at this more like it's a TV show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue, for one thing, is I'm not going to say budget because it clearly looks like they have budget more or less.
Just they didn't use it well. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. There you go. Effort, passion for the work,
style.
Well, I was gonna say creativity, but yeah, style works too. Like the weird thing is, like all the actors involved, I genuinely think could do good.
Yeah, like they try. That's the it makes me feel bad for them because I can tell, like even in season 1, I could tell they were trying. It's just that all of the soul of this story is gone, and I kind of hate it. It's like going to a funeral or a viewing and seeing the corpse of someone you used to love. That's the feeling this show gives me. It's the feeling of there is the body of the thing I used to really like and actually like got me off the ledge when I was feeling suicidal years ago. But all of the soul, all of the spark, all of the life, all of the intrigue, all the style, all the gravitas is just completely missing. It's just an empty vessel now. And it makes me feel depressed. I'm not gonna lie. It genuinely, just honestly makes me feel depressed. And it makes me all the more depressed because just for sheer like economical like use of screen time shit, they're probably gonna have to avoid doing what were always the strength of the Sandman, which were the like one-off stories where Dream was just doing things that Dream does, and they're gonna have to focus on the plot. That wouldn't be a problem, except that at least half of the plot is Dream has to fuck off and die because Neil Gaiman got salty about the idea that they were gonna use his toys after he was done playing with them. Funny how that doesn't apply to his incarnation of death, which pisses me off even more. Because if you're gonna throw a freaking temper tantrum, Neil, so that DC can't use your toys after you're done playing with them, take them all. Don't leave death sitting there. Even though this is the thing, Neil Gaiman wrote this story in such a way as that the character of Dream would be gone by the time he was done with the story. Because he didn't want DC editorial able to tell stories using his characters afterwards. But he didn't take Death with him when he left. So, Death of the Endless actually appeared several times since Neil Gaiman got done playing with her. And not only hasn't Neil Gaiman complained about that, he has explicitly complimented them on their use of her. Which pisses me off to no end, because that means that if he had let Dream live through the story and let people use his character, just like he did with Death, they probably would have been relatively equally as respectful to Dream as they were to Death, and he would have been complimenting them. So, in short, you killed him off because you wanted to throw an artistic temper tantrum, Neil, and as far as we can tell, there was literally no reason to, because apparently people other than you are capable of using your Death character, so what reason to have you to assume they wouldn't be just as respectful with your Dream character? Because I and everybody else who loves that character would have loved for him to stick around instead of being replaced by Daniel Hall for no fucking reason. But because you threw an artistic temper tantrum, we can't have nice things. Even though you're a hypocrite because you didn't kill Death off accordingly, and you like what they did with her after you were done playing with her. So why didn't you give people the chance to play with Dream in the same way as you admit that you've liked the way they've played with Death? Fucking asshole. Puppies.
Let me get that tab.
All I have to do.
Everyone loves a good story. But all stories come to an end.
Yeah, but not all endings have to suck. Is the problem with this straw man? Because I know that lines like that were put in to make those of us who actually did identify with Dream and hate that he had to die for no goddamn explicable reason, to make us calm our tits. But here's the thing: not all endings have to end with death. Not all endings have to suck. Not all endings are nihilistic temper tantrums thrown by a middle-aged artist who's past his prime. And not all endings end with the character dying off and everyone being miserable. That nihilistic bullshit is a confabulation of your own bruised artistic ego, Mr. Gaiman. And frankly, as you know, I am a men's rights advocate and stuff. I don't know whether you're guilty of the sexual improprieties you're being accused of. I maintain a standard of innocent until proven guilty. So when I yell at you like this, rest assured it is not in any way due to your lack of presence or lack of sexual conduct. I don't fucking care about you as a moral actor, as a person. I don't really particularly care. I care about your output as an artist. And in recent years especially, your output as an artist has been shit, and many of the flaws with the output or the adaptations of your recent work have been issues created from your own fucking egotistical brattiness. But I can't even say it's a recent development, because that very same egotistical brattiness is what led you to killing off Dream in the first place, even though The Sandman is the story that frankly put your name on the map. Sandman is, was, and always shall be, Neil Gaiman, unless you can manage to prove me wrong, which I sincerely doubt. Sandman is your magnum opus. You should have let the story tell itself, instead of sticking an ending where one was not fucking necessary. You should have left it ambiguous and let the character have an ongoing history, instead of needlessly being replaced with Daniel Hall at the last second. And that very same egotistical brattiness, I think, has led to your sincere lack of talent in recent years. You are well past your prime, and frankly, you were riding on fumes this entire time. I'm reasonably confident in saying that now, because You have no humility when it comes to creating shit. You think your role as the artist means the world revolves around you. Well, sod off, Neil. No, it doesn't. Frankly, as a polytheistic occultist, I'm sitting there thinking you had divine help every great now and again. But as it happens, anytime your stories do revolve around a deific character, like Dream / Oneros, or like Odin in the case of American gods, you do have a tendency to write them as being killed the fuck off. So I'm not surprised the gods are sick of your fucking bullshit. And that lack of friends on the other side has resulted in your utter lack of talent, it seems. Maybe you should have been a little bit more grateful, not only to your audience and to your own like muse or whatever the fuck, but also to the deific characters that you have used as the mainstays in your storytelling. Because frankly, if I were a deity and you wrote a story where I got killed off for no explicable reason because you couldn't think of a better way to end shit, I would be pissed off at you too. But poppies.
Everyone here seems to not notice or care. The world is ending.
We did have some good times, didn't we? You cannot save yourself now. The dreaming will survive.
It's just depressing. It's the corpse of something that was so moving to me that it prevented me from committing suicide once. And it depresses me. Poppies.
Even if I did not.
July 3rd.
Oh, goody. Sometimes I hate how prompt Netflix is when they release trailers for shit. I would have preferred at least 6 months to forget it if this exists before having to inevitably watch it so I can review it. But que sera sera, such is my fucking duties. Because someone has to call Neil Gaiman on his egotistical bullshit, and no one else is gonna do it. So fuck it, I'll do it. Hang on, the cat wants in.
All right, I got the next thing. The positive thing.
Alright, I'm back.
All right. Well, I know Dalton's not a funny guy, but I hope this kind of, sort of, maybe cheers him up a little bit. So this is the official trailer for the Naked Gun, the newest movie in the Naked Gun series. Originally, I thought it was a reboot. I was gladly wrong.
Yep, they decided to make it in continuity. That is what we call a good decision.
It's produced by Seth MacFarlane, and honestly, I'm fine with that. Honestly, this kind of property makes sense for him.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, basically everything he touches that isn't Family Guy is actually pretty good.
To be fair, he hasn't really been hands-on with Family Guy in years. He's just been voicing stuff.
No, and I think that's part of the reason why it's so inseparable now. Like, and by now I mean like for the last 10 years or so, because I think what happened was kind of a similar thing that happened with The Simpsons, except more explicit. Seth MacFarlane wanted to end it, and the network was like, "No, we can't end it. It gets too many good ratings, so you have to keep it going unnecessarily." That's one of the reasons I think Brian, in particular, is written like such an asshole now, because Brian used to be Seth's self-insert character, and since they won't let him end the show on his own terms, he's just increasingly turning the characters into more and more insufferable dicks. Except for Stewie, ironically, who continues to be more and more like turned into a normal baby instead of, his original evil genius shtick, which was when Family Guy was good. Anyway, moving on.
Right.
I'm not sure what to donuts because cops.
I feel like I need to watch Naked Gun to see if there's any references, but also Liam Neeson playing Frank Drebin Jr. Fantastic. The dude, like, as much as people like remember him from Taken and stuff like that, the dude is also hilarious. Mainly because he does play like versions of that character.
He plays the straight man really well because
he's not playing the straight. He's doing what Leslie Nielsen did in the original Naked Gun movies, which was play the character absolutely straight in such a ridiculous way.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's in like just the most like as insane and like parody their world is, like the Naked Gun world. Everyone just takes it as real, like takes it as like serious, which honestly makes it funnier, I think. The funny, dry, taking things overly seriously in absurd situations can be a majorly good creative device. Yeah, that was Leslie Nielsen's whole thing, because before that he was actually before he did Airplane and the Gun series, before he was recognized as or Jackie the Dead Covenant, right? The dude was actually a serious actor, like did serious stuff, like dramatic and stuff, and that deadpan serious nature his acting style lended great to working in comedies, I think.
Yeah, because it allows you essentially to be the dry character in an absurdist world.
Yeah.
It's also something that worked really well for the Princess Bride movie. The hyper intellectualizing of mundane circumstances that happened in that movie is one of the things that makes it the most hilarious.
I really need to sit down and watch that movie in full.
I swear to God, have you honestly never seen it?
No, I've seen it. I just have not genuinely finished it, in one sitting.
Shame on you. Not only because that's a mainstay of geek culture, because it is one of the single most perfect movies I think I've ever seen. If you're at all into action, adventure, or fantasy, there is no force on this earth that could make you not like Princess Bride, because it is just that good. I don't often agree with Rotten Tomatoes on things, but that I believe Princess Bride, last time I checked it, had a 97, and I totally co-signed that. The only problem is something was wrong with the remaining 3 people, or the remaining 3% of people, if it only has a 97, because that movie should have 100, damn it. But anyway, donuts.
Yeah.
Once you kill a man for revenge, there's no going back. A voice in your head saying over and over, "That was awesome."
Who are you?
Drebin, detective.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
already
no.
tell how
This-
like Moss is.
This is going to be enjoyable. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Donuts.
Honestly, okay, I'm gonna be. I know about this before when we talked about the Happy Time murders.
Mhm.
Not in the same vein as this, mind you, because this works because it's so stick.
Yeah.
I think Happy Time murders would have worked better because I think originally it was plotted to be a more serious movie. It took 10 years to make, I think, or longer. I think it would have worked better if. And for the people who don't know what the Happy Time Murders is, it was like that. It was like that puppet movie with Melissa McCarthy and stuff. Not that great.
It was trying. It is the very definition of the phrase "try hard." Honestly, that's what made it so cringy, was because it was so over the top, like dark and like
It was
cynical.
it was that edgy adult humor that honestly comes more across as juvenile than adult humor.
Yeah, like we're talking about like Aqua Teen Hunger Force levels of just, or a better analogy for this, in fact, a better version of what Happy Time Murders was trying to do was already accomplished in the show Mr. Meaty, if anyone remembers that show.
Oh, thank Gaming Nightmares. But kind of pivoting from that, I kind of wish that they would have made it more juxtaposition of the colorful puppets and stuff, that it was treated more seriously, like a genuine like classic hard-boiled detective noir kind of story.
Well, that, and it would, had they tried to play it straight, it would have wound up more like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is always good company to be in.
Yeah, that's
especially given that the Happy Time Murders as a concept really does seem like swap cartoons for Muppets
puppets.
in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and you basically have a better version of what that movie was trying to be.
Weirdly enough, Roger Rabbit, for the innovation, when it's often remembered by, which is like the overly sexualized female cartoon character that is Jessica Rabbit. It actually is like, remove that, and it's like you remove the cartoon stuff, right? It's actually still a genuinely interesting and great detective story.
Yeah.
Which I think, I'm not saying obviously do this all the time, but I think a good story, even if you take out one element that could be like a major selling point, is still possible of working because of how well crafted it is.
Yeah, not to mention that playing things a little bit more seriously in this regard, and I think it's probably going to be the case here with this movie. Letting your characters take themselves seriously at least some portion of the time leaves room for there to be emotional depth and heart, which is important for a movie like this, especially if you are trying to make the audience care about the characters, which I guess in theory you don't always have to have characters that you care about in a comedy in order for something to be funny. But the difference between a comedy that's fun to watch while you're in the theater and you'll probably never watch again, and a comedy movie that is, ageless and will stand the test of time, is the ability to get invested in things like the characters, the depth, and the world building. Like for example, another great example. That is one of the primary differences between Ghostbusters 2016 and the original Ghostbusters. Because we got to know Venkman, Egon, and Ray and Winston outside of just being a mechanism to generate gags. It allowed Ghostbusters in its original form to stick in people's hearts and minds a little bit more, which is the difference between a comedy like Adam Sandler produces and a comedy that will be remembered fondly 50 years from now. Because I fully expect that no matter how many questionable sequels they make to Ghostbusters, those at least the first one, if not the first two, I would make an argument for the first two Ghostbusters movies, will probably be well remembered and well regarded 50 years from now. Same thing with Roger Rabbit, same thing with Princess Bride, same thing with any comedy that has lasting, same thing with Holy Grail, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. All the best comedies have more going on in them than just here's a funny skit, here's a funny skit, here's a funny skit over and over. Anyway, donuts, which is now making me hungry, damn it.
You really gotta eat. Well, no, because you told me that you would have to use the rest. I don't know. Either that or just eat during stream.
No one ever wants to hear me eating.
You don't know how weird people are out there. Not saying art. You know what?
Well,
no.
okay.
Anyone who's in this pod, like listens to this podcast or has ever been part of this podcast, is weird. Like
this is true, but let me put this another way. I don't want to attract the kind of audience that would like to hear my eating noises. Because that kind of creeps me out, the idea that someone could be turned on by my eating noises.
Anyway, moving on.
Donuts. Yeah. Donuts.
Frank Drebin. Thanks.
Police Squad has always been the elite of the elite.
Hi, Daddy. It's me, Frank Jr. Love you.
Hey, Dad. Boy, do I miss you.
Whose voice was that? Who said this squad has always been the elite of the... Is that C.H. Pounder?
Let me look up... I'm going to look up the cast for this, because I am curious.
That sounds almost exactly like the voice actress for Amanda Waller, who is C.H. Pounder.
Hold on. Yes. Oh, holy shit. She was also Mrs. Rob. She was in Warehouse 13.
Well, that's cool in and of itself. But this movie just went like up 2 notches on the awesomeness scale. Which, by the way, why in all of the fucks was she not the one casted as Amanda Waller in live action? Because she could easily pass for Amanda Waller in live action. I have seen her before. She could very easily play Amanda Waller in live action. If anyone had had a brain cell to rub together when they were making the Suicide Squad. Fuck. Like, I have nothing in particular against Viola Davis, mind you, but C.H. Pounder is to Amanda Waller as Kevin Conroy is to Batman, literally. So, like, why couldn't they just have her play the character in live action? She could very easily play that character in live action, and it would have been convincing. And every fanboy in the world would have just had a geekgasm just on that basis alone. But this movie just went up two notches in the awesomeness field because they included Amanda Waller in a police movie. That's just genius.
And again, the scene we saw in the teaser with everyone at the like memorials thing, and then the guy who's supposed to be like O.J. Simpson's character's kid, and he just looks at the camera and gives a That's never not gonna be funny. Come on, you piece of shit.
Yep. But donuts.
Yep.
And you, Frank, are the best of the best.
I need a bathroom. I need this one.
Okay, the more they include of her, the more excited I am for this movie. That's just, it's one of those things that I never would have, like, if you asked me 5 minutes ago if I thought they would ever have C.H. Pounder in here, I would have told you were on meth or something. But now that it's here, I realize how much I've always wanted this. Why? Again, missed opportunities for the DC Universe, for the love of all that is holy. Donuts.
Right. Now they're doing a fart joke, but
They can't all be winners, I suppose. I just hope that it's not indicative of the rest of the movie.
it just seems like a bit. So, although they are creative with using the car cameras and a body cam.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Donuts.
Oh, I'm gonna ruin another suit.
Over here, Lieutenant. I think someone murdered my brother.
Please, take a chair.
Thank you.
Pamela Anderson. Oh, I saw. Okay, so full record, I did send this, and I watched it before. Obviously, before I sent it, just because I wanted to make sure it was good to send.
Mm-hmm.
So because because of my internet being, you're not gonna see like all of it go on.
Mm-hmm.
When he said, "Please take a chair," she literally takes a chair. Which,
what is she about? Is she about to do like the back-breaking maneuver from wrestling or something with it?
No, she just takes a chair after leaving. Like, she just leaves and takes a chair. That's the joke. Took it literally.
I thought it would have been funnier. I thought it would have been funnier if she took it and then like beat somebody over the head with it or something.
Yeah, they don't do that joke in the Naked Gun series, to my recollection. So if I'm wrong, please someone correct me. I like how everything looks. Like it's not flat or anything, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Give me a second. The cat wants out now. Yes, Jarvis, I know. Okay. Continuing on. Donuts.
I'll find them. This is what I do. Says you served 20 years for man's laughter.
You mean manslaughter?
Must have been quite the joke.
They're going to shut down Police Squad if you do not solve this case. Do this by the book.
Okay, so they are literally having the voice actress for Amanda Waller play essentially the police commissioner / boss character.
I would say captain because it's well. They say it's being shot. So if she was commissioner, logically speaking, she could not have it. I mean, she would be the one shutting it down. So
Okay, yeah, but point being, they're having her play the boss character, which just is again. Take notes, DC. Why was this so hard? I love even more that she's not gonna be just a cameo character. I love that she's gonna have a longer impact on the plot.
looks like the building for Police Squad is going to be turning into a Spirit Halloween.
Which is funny. I'm not sure when this movie comes out, but if it comes out anywhere near October,
August.
that's even funny. Fuck. Why? Stop. Like, Hollywood, stop putting things with Halloween references in them in somewhere other than, like, September, October. God damn it.
Alright.
Still pretty funny, but not as funny as it would have been had this movie come out in, like, late September or, like, mid-October.
One of the things I missed earlier is that Frank is driving the car and someone hands him a coffee from the side just randomly while he's still driving. Just randomly a hand comes in from the window and hands him a drink, and he's just driving.
Okay. That's interesting.
Again, these movies, I wouldn't say they work on absurdism, but it's very much cartoony. Anything else? All right. Donuts?
Donuts.
Why? Who's going to arrest me? Other cops?
Yes.
Is she serious?
Is he serious?
No.
It seems Mr. Drebin might be more of a problem than we thought. I want you to keep an eye on him.
Again, I'm sorry if this like skipping a bunch of stuff just on the fact that my internet's crap. But one of the jokes here was a guy was looking through infrared thermal binoculars, and saw. Okay. Remember Austin Powers?
Austin Powers? Yeah.
Yeah. Remember second movie. The scene in the tent, like the shadows. Where?
Yes, vaguely. It's been a while since I've seen Austin Powers because I didn't.
Let me run you through it then.
Okay.
Dr. Evil's. They're on the island of Dr. Evil. Austin with his Powers girl, I guess. I don't remember her name. Dr. Evil henchman is surrounding the tent, and there's a light that casts shadows of the two. Right. Austin is reading a manual on something, I believe, and the Powers girl is looking through the equipment. But how they're placed, shadows-wise, it looks like she's pulling a bunch of shit out of his ass. And the reactions of the guys, obviously, like, what the fuck? Here, it's similar. The guy is looking through thermal binoculars, and it looks like, I believe Pam Anderson's character is giving Frank Drebin either that or fellatio. But in actuality, she's cleaning an oven, and Frank is just looking at some pots hanging. It looks like they're just like cleaning up the apartment. I realize explaining the joke is actually seeing it, but
right, but yeah. I'm trying to remember something. What was the last thing I saw Pamela Anderson in? I'm trying to think. I don't remember, and it annoys me because there's something about her being in this movie that would make it even funnier if I'm thinking of the right person, and I can't think of if I am or not. Anyway, moving on though. Donuts.
This oven is disgusting.
Rest assured, I won't stop until I've found justice.
What do you want, little one?
Your ass.
Yeah, the big scene from the teaser we saw. This is the ending of this, which hilarious. It was fun.
Yep.
Yeah, this whole movie just looks like a fucking mess.
I will support this movie just on the basis of C.H. Pounder being in it, because god damn it, they need to. DC needs to learn that they made the wrong choice. They easily could have had a live action Amanda Waller with the same person who voiced Amanda Waller originally, and they didn't. And nothing against Viola Davis, but that would have been infinitely preferable to Viola Davis's character. Granted, the writing for her version of Amanda Waller hasn't been good, so that I don't necessarily hold as much against her. Do hold against her that she didn't put on weight for the role, though, so there's that. Anyway, donuts.
Yep.
Nobody messes with Police Squad.
We've upgraded your car with the most advanced crime-fighting tech.
Drive forward 30 feet. Pretty smooth.
Okay, I get why that's supposed to be funny, but I don't like jokes that like undermine things. So like, yes, it's funny that it sounds like they meant like Bond gadgets and instead they mean self-driving car or GPS and shit. But
no, it was a self-driving car that was connected to a gas pump when it was given the command. So
yeah, I don't like jokes that undermine things. Is the problem with that?
You make jokes like that all the time, though.
I'm better at giving them than most people are.
You are a paradoxical creature, Dalton.
Are you just realizing this now?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, every time I think I figure out the consistency of your thought process, I'm always thrown for a loop.
You will get there eventually. Hopefully, you don't get lost in the labyrinth of my mind. Because that's usually what happens. If you stare too long into my insanity, it's gonna end up like a Lovecraftian thing. You're going to go insane the second you realize the full intricacies of my mind. And I don't want to do that to you. So look away as often as you need to. Lol. Anyway, outro time because I have to use the bathroom.
I need bed and stuff. Alright, so with that, folks, I want to say goodbye. Adios, aloha, avidazai, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
shalom, support CH Pounder, and fuck off. Not necessarily.